This morning, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. brings his presidential campaign to Fort Worth. The challenge of getting on the ballot in all 50 states, where he sees a path to victory, and that now viral video of him barefoot on an American Airlines flight this month. Keep your eye on a rural Texas House race. Jill Dutton, Brent Money, both wanting to replace the expelled Brian Slayton. Texas Republicans have taken sides on this one, and the winner might reveal which group wields the most influence. Mexico says Texas will violate human rights laws with the passage of Senate Bill 4. Could Texas now face consequences from its largest trading partner? And Michael Burgess, now the second Texas Republican to leave Congress. Who is looking at the seat now, though?
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning, lots to cover here, but let's start with the headlines this morning. The latest bill passed by the Texas legislature is almost certainly going to end up in court. This is Senate Bill 4. It lets local and state police arrest people they suspect of being in the U.S. illegally. Democrats say it will lead to racial profiling. The ACLU has threatened to sue, arguing that immigration law is a federal responsibility, not a state one. Michael Burgess, now the second Texas Republican in Congress, not wanting to return to D.C. Burgess represents Louisville, Flower Mound, and up to the Red River, and as far out as Jacksboro, actually. He has served more than 20 years in Congress. A former state lawmaker now said to be considering a run for this seat. Kay Granger from Fort Worth, another veteran Republican, is leaving D.C. as well at the end of the term. And a Texas judge has thrown out most Republican lawsuits against Harris County from last year's election. The judge acknowledged that Harris County did make mistakes, did not have enough ballot paper, but the judge ruled that the outcome of any race was not affected. The judge dismissed all but one of those lawsuits. Leading us off this morning here, a fight for influence in the Republican Party of Texas. It is playing out in House District 2. It's Greenville, Sulphur Springs, and Canton. This is the race to replace Brian Slayton. He's the state rep who was expelled from the legislature after a relationship with an intern. Well, two Republicans made the runoff to complete Slayton's term, and across the state, conservatives are taking sides in this race. Jill Dutton is a businesswoman from Van Zandt County. Brent Money, an attorney from Greenville. He finished first and is up first this morning. Brent, welcome to the program. Thanks for coming in here. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Defend Texas Liberty gave you $35,000, one of your big donors here too. Jonathan Stickland, the former state rep from North Texas, he met with white supremacist Nick Fuentes not too long ago. What was your reaction to that meeting?
I had never heard of Nick Fuentes. Certainly everything I've learned about him since then is bad and not the kind of person that I would want to be associated or affiliated with. I don't know what their meeting was about. I don't know, what they discussed. I do know that Defend Texas Liberty is supporting me, and I'm not any of those things. What I know about Jonathan Stickland, he isn't either. So I don't know what the reason for that meeting was. I know that in this kind of campaign, you're going to get support from all different kinds of people, and I think that their support shows that they like what I am. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm supporting everything that they support.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and a few others have given back money or donated it to causes that they want to donate it to. Do you plan to do anything with your $35,000?
No, I've spent it on getting my message out, my message of freedom and bold Christian conservative values, and that's what it's already been spent on.
You and your opponent support a lot of the same issues: border security, Second Amendment, right to life. If I'm going to the ballot box in HD2 for this runoff election, how are you guys different?
Yeah.
You're both Republicans?
Between the two of us, Jill is a very nice lady. I've met her just through the course of this campaign. I think she's sincere in what she says she believes. I think that I'm a more bold leader on those issues and am willing to stick my neck out. I'm not just here to get along with everybody and enjoy being a legislator. It's a difficult job and not one that is it's not the kind of job that you do just to enjoy. You're going to make a lot of people upset no matter which side you take. And
the two biggest issues right now facing House District 2 are what, in your opinion?
Border security and probably border security.
But how is border security impacting, Northeast Texas, rural Texas?
I think every county in Texas is a border county right now. They see it as crime comes into their county, as just additional weight of taxpayer subsidized education and health care for people who are not here legally. And I'm pro-immigration. I think we're a nation of immigrants. My family immigrated here. Yours probably did as well. I'm not anti-immigration, but we have to know who's coming in. We can't have, over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, 1.6 million people that are in Texas that we don't know who they are, where they came from, what their intentions are. And so I think people are just fearful of what Texas is going to look like if we don't stop illegal immigration.
First bill you would introduce if elected is what?
This is kind of a joke, but probably shortening the period of time to fill a vacancy in the legislature. We had a vacancy in the legislature from May, and we're not going to fill it until February. And as a person who's a candidate, and I'm sure Ms. Dutton would say the same thing, this is a long time to run a race.
And those 194,000 people haven't had representation in Austin for almost a year.
Yeah, they were not represented during the impeachment of Ken Paxton. They were not represented during now 4 special sessions. There's got to be a better way to do this. I know that's not an issue that probably matters to most of the people watching here, but man, it's got to be fixed.
Brent, thank you for the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Jason.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Joe, we wanted to give you equal time. Thanks for coming in. Let's start with school choice. It's the biggest issue in Austin right now. Do you support giving taxpayer money to parents to let them decide where to send their children?
Sure, I support school choice and accountability and good, strong rural public schools. It's really unfortunate, though, that I won't be there to have a voice or to have a vote because of the actions of our previous state representative.
In the special session right now, you mean?
Correct. We have no vote, no voice.
And just to make sure I'm clear, you would support giving taxpayer money to moms and dads so they could send their kids to private schools?
As long as there is accountability and our schools are fully funded, they are our first obligation constitutionally.
You're a former school board member with Van ISD in Van Zandt County. How do you think if school choice passes, how would it affect Van ISD?
I don't think that it will affect Van ISD very much. There's maybe only 3 or 4 private schools in Van Zandt County, the same in the other two counties in this district as well.
Doing research for these interviews, you and your opponent sound a lot alike. You support the same things. You support border security, Second Amendment, right to life. How would you tell voters you're most different from him?
I think if you look at who's supporting each of us, the same people that put Brian Slayton into office are the same people that are coalescing around my opponent. And to your point about school choice and ESAs, I want heavy accountability. He wants no accountability.
You say heavy accountability. You want to make sure that the state knows how these tax dollars are being spent at public schools and whether the schools are educating the kids? Is that what that means?
It's no different than if money goes to for a state grant or an NGO. You have to know where the money is going, what it's being used for, and is that money actually doing what they said it would do?
The way I read the campaign finance reports, you raised significantly more money than your opponent, but you finished second. What happened?
Well, he is from the largest county in this district, Hunt County, and he has name ID with a lot of the businesses in Hunt County, while my business is here in Dallas. So I had that hurdle to overcome, is to get name ID and recognition, and I do feel like that we have overcome that. We came in second, but we will come in first at the end of this race at the runoff.
You're a Republican in this race, but you've been described by your opponent as a liberal in this campaign. Are you?
No, not at all. I have been working for the past 25 years to grow the Republican Party and to preserve Christian conservative values. All of my friends find it absolutely laughable, and it's just an outright lie. Looking back at the election we just ran, leading up to November 7th, I look at the other Republican candidates, my opponents, and I've probably done more for the Republican Party than all 4 of them combined.
A couple last questions here too. You say that you would protect life from conception to natural death. Explain what that means. Do you think that all abortion should be illegal?
Yes, I do. I do think that it should be.
Any
Yes.
exceptions at all that you would support, whether a mother's life or rape victims
No.
or a child under 18?
I'm a strong Christian, strong conservative. I love the Lord, and the Bible says that we are knitted in our mother's womb, and I believe that with all of my heart. And so I believe that every human life is God-inspired, and He put that baby there for a reason, and every child matters.
Jill, thank you for the time.
All right, thank you.
All right, let's bring in the roundtable now to talk about House District 2 and how the outcome of this race might impact the GOP statewide. Bud Kennedy is here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I am Mitra from the Texas Tribune in Austin. Bernadine Steptoe, political producer at WFAA. Bud, let's start with you. Defend Texas Liberty supports Brent Money. Jill Dutton has backing from Speaker Phelan's allies here. What are you watching for in this, and how significant is this?
Well, this is just a preview of what we're going to see in the March primaries in a lot of these races. We're going to have the Defend Liberty candidate against the establishment candidate. You know, what we're going to see here, this is a very conservative district. They usually elect the most conservative candidate possible. Brent Money's from the larger county, as she said, from Greenville. You know, he's got a built-in advantage in this race. You know, the question is whether she's going to be able to overcome that in a much smaller runoff in February.
And Ian, what is this? What would the outcome tell you, Ian, in this race, which won't happen until February?
Well, we have to seek a balance here on what we're looking for, too, because we're talking about a runoff in a time where it's probably not going to be a huge turnout. You know, Brent Money kind of was ahead in the initial election. But, you know, it again goes back to how the candidates are kind of trying to separate themselves. And Jill Dutton is focused on the Defend Texas Liberty ties. And so that is going to continue to be a theme. That is a theme that the Speaker of the House has also really emphasized, too. So that's going to continue to be a theme going into the primary season.
And Bernadine, a clear difference here between these two Republicans. Jill Dutton has said she's going to be one of these rural Republicans who support school choice, but only with heavy accountability, as she said. She's going to be one of these rural Republicans who might be, standing in the way of it.
Well, and I think that it's obviously a reason that the ultra conservatives are trying to defeat her. But I think what's most important in this race is going to be turnout, because they won their counties, yeah. But unless they can get their voters. And this has to do with money as well. And he might have a built-in advantage, but he's got to get them to the polls. And she didn't do better, but she did okay in his county. So they've got to get it. It's going to be all about turnout.
And turnout indeed. We do not yet know when the runoff is going to be in this race. It hasn't been set yet. Likely to be probably in February is what both candidates are telling me. So we'll wait and see about that. Back to you guys here in just a moment. When we come back here, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. trying to do what no other American has since George Washington. And why was RFK Jr. barefoot on an American Airlines flight this month? Our interview with him when Inside Texas Politics returns. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is trying to do what no American since George Washington has accomplished, to become president as an independent. RFK Jr. faces backlash for his positions on COVID and vaccines, but a couple of polls this month are revealing young voters and independents prefer Kennedy over Biden and Trump. We sat down with RFK Jr. on a stop in Fort Worth. Mr. Kennedy, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Jason.
You're doing well in polls with young voters and independent voters, but we're a year out from the election. How do you maintain that momentum and grow it further?
There's three big polls that kind of confirm me in the same 22 to 24%. The most recent is the New York Times poll, which has me at 24%, which is about the same. The last independent candidate to get that high this early was Teddy Roosevelt, so that's 100 years ago with the Full Moose Party. So I feel like I'm in a good position right now, and I feel also that those are the two weakest candidates for president from major parties in recent decades, and so I feel very good about my chances.
You know the history of independent candidates in this country. They're not the best. They usually suck off support from Republicans or Democrats. Where do you see a path to victory?
Well, I'm taking, again, I'm just basing this not on my speculation, but on what the polling show and what, the analysis by Politico that showed that my support is coming, a lot of it, and particularly my money, is coming from people who have not given to political campaigns before.
The polls in battleground states are where you're ahead right now. Have you looked out at the map and said there are any must-win states? We've got to get these states. We've got to concentrate in these areas.
I think we've done analysis. I mean, we have extensive spreadsheets. I have to get 270 electoral votes. The way that the rules work is you don't need a majority, you need a plurality in order to get, and it's winner take all. So all I have to get in a lot of these states is probably 38% of the vote, and I will win all the electoral votes. So there are many, many different paths for me reaching 270, which is the magic number that will make me president.
How challenging do you think it's going to be, Mr. Kennedy, to get on the ballot in all 50 states?
I think it's going to be very challenging, but I'm 100% confident we can do it.
What are the two biggest, most urgent, pressing issues facing this country right now, in your opinion?
I think the wars are most important, and also the destruction of the middle class in this country, the price of housing particularly, the fact that we have a whole generation of kids that are not going to get into housing, who have lost, the poll shows, lost faith in our country, lost hope in their future. The other issue that I would say that I'm very much focused on is the chronic disease epidemic in children. Those diseases are coming from toxic exposures, and we need to eliminate them. And I'm going to do that as president. I'm going to get us a safe food supply in this country, and I'm going to reduce the exposures and the chronic disease epidemic.
I want to ask you about something that's kind of gone viral here. You've leaned into that barefoot video on an American Airlines plane, Americans based here in North Texas. And you had your own little response to TMZ the other day on that flight to Dallas. Well, why were your shoes off?
I don't like wearing shoes. I never have.
You have them on in this interview, though, here.
I know, it's painful. I was going to take them off, but I don't want another video out there right now.
Mr. Kennedy, thank you for the time. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank you very much.
Lots to cover on the roundtable when we come back here on Inside Texas Politics. All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Bud is back with us from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I am Mitra here from the Texas Tribune, and Bernadine is back with us from WFAA here in Dallas. Bud, let's start with you. Republicans in D.C. are getting physical.
Oh, my gosh.
There's allegations of elbowing. There's the senator from Oklahoma standing up, threatening to fight a witness in a committee. What in the world is going on?
Well, it's just become so nasty, and when you even have the Republican conference, the House conference, that can't get along within the conference, the majority party, you've got a real just nasty situation with everyone. What's going on in part, Jason, is that we elect people based on they use the word fight for us, and they go up there and they threaten to fight. And so, we elect people based on whether they'll fight instead of whether they'll lead. That's the basic problem.
And we have, at least in North Texas, a couple of openings right now. Kay Granger is leaving her position, and so is Michael Burgess from North Texas. Who's going to replace them? The same? Are we going to get more fighters up there?
I mean, and you also have Pat Fallon, who almost left and then decided to come back after the speaker kind of talked to him. And it's just a deep frustration. You saw Congressman Chip Roy really express that frustration too on the House floor, saying that the GOP hasn't done much of anything in the House, and so there's just obviously a clear frustration about running into brick walls in terms of making any types of progress on legislations or any efforts really.
Yeah, the comment from Chip Roy was interesting indeed, and Bernadine Mattie Parker, the mayor of Fort Worth, who is a Republican, said she's not going to run for Kay Granger's seat at least. Is it a dumpster fire? I mean, could you describe it as that? Because Republicans didn't want to use the word chaos, really, when Speaker Johnson was up for election.
Well, I think that's a good description because sooner or later they're going to burn it down. But nothing is getting
literally burn it down? I mean,
you sound like you're rooting for that.
Yeah, if they're literally fighting right now.
I'm rooting for something to happen. I'm rooting, but you know what? Keep in mind now, this is giving us a lot of things to talk about, but it's nothing happening. And it doesn't matter who the speaker is. It doesn't matter actually who you send down unless you get the majority. So we need for our government to function, and it's not. And a lot of the Congress people are not even interested in governing.
You talk about rooting for something to happen. You're rooting for bills to get passed as opposed to the place burning down.
As opposed to chaos. Well,
I'm not going to change that until something's going to happen.
We know who will pull the fire alarm.
Seriously, it doesn't make sense, other than what Bud said in terms of they're not interested in governing.
Let's move on and talk about the border here. Let me ask you about this. Mexico doesn't like Senate Bill 4 that Texas just passed, letting local and state police arrest anyone that they suspect of being here illegally. At what point do these politics backfire? Because Mexico is the largest trading partner for this state.
That's right, and you're talking about billions of dollars in capital investment, that's crossing from Mexico into Texas and Texas into Mexico. There's a lot of trade, there's a lot of business investment, and so obviously we don't know what's going to happen. The governor has said he's going to sign this bill, but we're also, it's going to go to court. There's going to be a lawsuit over it, and we won't know if it's going to pass. But there are long-term implications here too in terms of relations, and that's something that could be concerning down the line in terms of like how we're communicating with our state's biggest trading partner. And
Bud, when I see this and when I hear what Ian's saying, I'm thinking, well, that may be true. But we've seen what Republicans have done in this state before.
Republicans
in the final seconds here.
Have been able to pass bills like this over and over and reassure Mexico, this isn't about you, this is about the Central Americans, the other people across the border. Mexico is not a problem right now.
All right. Good deal, guys. We had to leave it there. We appreciate the insight and input as always, and thank you for watching as well. We're back again next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics, and hope you can join us then. Take care.